Hi, I'm the List Girl, and welcome to my videographic journal.
Hi, I'm the List Girl.
Hi, I'm the List Girl.
Hey guys, List Girl here.
Hi, I'm the List Girl, and this is my bucket list channel. A place full of discovery, cultural discovery, creative discovery, skill discovery, self-discovery. My list contains 1,000 things I want to do before I die.
With my list, gain new experiences, new skills. Most importantly, I set out to discover myself.
What would you put on your list if you had one? If you had no limitations, an infinite amount of time, and a pocket full of money, how would you change your story? How would you change your life? In today's video, I'd like to talk about autism and dissociation, what it is, why it affects us, how it affects those of us on the spectrum. I'll begin by explaining exactly what dissociation is in a moderate amount of detail so that this video is precise and informative but also not extremely long. What is dissociation? Dissociation is a psychological phenomenon in which a person experiences a disconnection or detachment from reality, thoughts, feelings, memories, or even their sense of identity. It's like your mind temporarily separates itself from reality or from your body/mind to deal with stress, trauma, or overwhelming emotions. Dissociation itself exists on its own spectrum and can range from mild to severe. Mild dissociation includes daydreaming or zoning out, losing track of time while doing something repetitive like driving or reading, feeling like you're on autopilot. Moderate dissociation is feeling detached from your own body or like you're watching yourself from the outside. That is called depersonalization. And no, it's not it's not that I don't believe in it. I do. It's just that this isn't what it's talking about. That thing when you like disappear and go off into a different world but you're physically here. The hell is that called? Like traveling. It's not space travel. The fuck is that called? Sorry, my throat's a bit from the weather and too much smoking. Anyways, spiritual girlies know what I mean. And number 2 of moderate dissociation is experiencing the world as unreal or dreamlike, called derealization. I experience this. I experience mild and moderate dissociation a lot personally, and it can feel kind of jarring, to say the least. Sometimes no, all the time I can't really control it and it just happens and I'm just like, ugh, how the fuck do I get back? Like, how do I come back, ground myself? There are grounding techniques, but it doesn't always work, especially while you're still in the situation that's causing you to be stressed. And then there's severe dissociation, which is memory gaps or missing time, or where you can't recall certain events or periods, or a sense of having multiple identities or a fragmented sense of self, often seen in DID, dissociative identity disorder. Dissociation is often linked to trauma, as it can act as a coping mechanism to shield a person from intense emotional pain. In some cases, however, it can become chronic and interfere with daily life. Dissociation can cause distress or impact someone's ability to function as well. Now, dissociation and autism. Dissociation in autistic people can often manifest as a response to overwhelming situations, sensory overload, or emotional distress. It involves a feeling of detachment from reality, the self-present moment, but in the context of autism, it may have some unique patterns or triggers that other forms of dissociation. For example, zoning out. Autistic individuals may zone out or check out or become mentally absent during overwhelming situations. This may look like daydreaming or staring out into space, but could reflect a deeper sense of disconnect from the current environment that they are in. Disconnecting during overload, when experiencing sensory overload, too much noise, light, movement, etc. Dissociation can act as a protective mechanism. It's the brain's way of trying to escape an unbearable situation, even if only mentally, like the social or mental situation is putting strain on the autistic brain. Even if the situation itself isn't something excessively traumatic or serious or extreme, the autistic person's brain is working 40% harder than the neurotypicals at all times, and so that puts stress on the psyche, on pressure on the psyche, thus leading to overwhelm or overload. And we run out of that mental power after a while and end up disassociating for a little while to cope with or recharge from the environment, the situation, the whatever's happening at that moment that made us disassociate. That our brain was like, depersonalization and derealization. Some autistic individuals, including myself, describe feeling detached from their body, depersonalization, or as though their surroundings are not real, derealization. These experiences can arise during high stress periods or after repeated overstimulation, just as I explained in the point above, or a point before. As an example, let me explain what happens to me when I disassociate. So it can happen at any moment. Majority of the time happens when I'm outside in social situations, or when it's been like a long day and I'm like shutting down or on the verge of a meltdown, for example. Like, it feels like in that moment, like I'm this, right? I'm here. And in that moment, it feels like I split into two. And then my physical body is here, but I'm like here watching myself. And again, it's not astral projection. It's not astral projection. It's like, it's all happening in my head. Like I've just become some person, like another person that's sitting in my head, just watching, like in and out, like, not in and out, like Inside Out. Like, I literally feel like I've just become one of those little people in my head, and I'm just watching my body move or talk and do things, but I'm just sat in there, like, in my brain, like, not being able to do anything, kind of thing. Does that make sense? I really hope that makes sense. I feel like Inside Out really got, like, that's a good metaphor, I think. But yeah, that's literally what that feels like. Like, I'm just split, and I'm just sat there watching myself do things, or feeling myself do things, or hearing myself say things, but I'm not there. I'm not there, which is really sad. Can be quite stressful, causing extra stress on top of the whatever stressful situation I might be in. And it's not even like stressful, it's just I struggle in social situations being autistic, and my social battery runs out really fast, and at that point, once my social battery has run out, or I'm feeling overstimulated, at that point it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna check out for a bit. It's not something I do on purpose. I don't even know how to do it. Imagine you just had 6 or 7 cups of coffee in a row. The crash that follows after is rough, right? And you can't help it. You're like feeling that buzz, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh my god. That is kind of like what happens. Like, you like ride the high of trying to socialize or whatever, but then you just dip, and that change in like your energy just makes your brain just, or at least my brain, just split, I guess, is the best way that I could try and explain it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Emotional overload and shutdowns. Emotional or cognitive overload in autistic people can lead to shutdowns, which may overlap with dissociative traits. For example, they might feel numb, frozen, or disconnected as their brain tries to process the stress, the information, the overload that it's going through. Trauma and dissociation. I'm going to make a whole other video on trauma and how complex and how more prominent and more common it is for neurodivergence in comparison to neurotypicals. I feel like that would be a very interesting video. Autistic people are more likely to express trauma from bullying, rejection, or misunderstanding, which is something that we experience regularly, unfortunately, which increases the likelihood of developing dissociation as a coping strategy. Repeated trauma, which is what often happens with misunderstandings, rejection, and bullying, can make dissociation more frequent and more intense. And then there's social dissociation, which is the most common amongst autistic people. Some autistic people might withdraw mentally during social situations they find overwhelming or confusing. This can make them seem distant or unengaged, even if they're internally overwhelmed or trying to process what is happening, because they want to be there, they want to be present, but it's just too much going on and we just can't. And so in order to process, so it's a bit like a catch-22 or whatever they call it, like I'm here, I'm present, I'm in a social situation, I'm trying to process, make sense of things, what's happening around me, trying to read vocal cues, behavioural cues, social cues, everything. And then when I'm like trying to process all that information, I disappear into my head, I disassociate, and I'm like, shit, because I wanted to be there, I was trying to be there and process this, but now my brain wants to process the situation like this and I don't know what to do about it. Like, it's not something that can be helped. Why disassociation happens in autism? Sensory processing differences. Autistic individuals often have heightened or atypical sensory experiences, which can be overwhelming and lead to dissociation as a form of escape. 2. Emotional regulation challenges. Intense emotions or difficulty understanding and managing feelings can contribute to dissociation. And 3. It's a coping mechanism. Dissociation may serve as a defense mechanism to avoid distressing or overstimulating situations. How it feels. An autistic person might describe dissociation as floating away, watching themselves from the outside, or feeling numb or unreal. For some, it's a momentary retreat, but for others it can last longer and interfere with daily life. I've already explained what mine feels like, so I don't feel like I need to go into any more in this section. It's just what I've heard other people say it feels like for them. So addressing disassociation, my fellow autistics and loved ones of fellow autistics who want to help their autistic person and care for their autistic person in their life. Here are some ways that you can help. Number 1, grounding techniques. Strategies like focusing on physical sensations, engaging with a comfort object, or using a sensory tool can be very helpful. I have an autism resource shop now on my website. I will link below in the description box, because I have created posters that get shipped right to your home for a grounding technique called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you have to name 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, 2 things you touch, and 1 thing you can taste. And slowly going through all those things, I think it's in that order, I might be wrong. Slowly as you go through all of those things, it slowly brings you back to like, okay, I'm here. Like I feel these things, I smell these things, I hear these things. So it slowly just brings you back. If you think that might be useful for you, I will leave the shop down in my description below. Number 2, a supportive environment. Reducing sensory triggers. That should be like a standard thing in anything you do for yourself as an autistic or as a loved one of an autistic. Just make it sensory friendly, and provide predictable, calming routines in order to minimize disassociation. Number 3, therapy. Trauma-informed or sensory-focused therapists can address the root cause of disassociation and teach coping skills. And I learnt this grounding technique from the last therapist that I had. She was fantastic and she knew a lot about dissociation. She helped me with that a lot, and I still use a lot of the techniques that she taught me, even though I haven't seen her in several months now, because I'm looking for a new therapist for other things. But she was very specific to certain things that I was going through. Get yourself a therapist. Oh. everybody, not just autistics, you all need therapy. In conclusion, dissociation in autistic people is often tied to external and internal overwhelm. Recognizing this connection can help provide tailored support to manage and reduce its impact. I hope you guys have found this video useful. Pardon me. I hope you guys have found this video useful. If you learnt something, let me know in the comments below what you learnt, and if you suffer from dissociation, how it affects you, because I'm very interested to know if like we deal, like now that you guys know how I experience dissociation, I'm interested in how you guys experience it for further understanding, but also to like see if there's people that experience dissociation the same way that I do, so that we don't all feel alone. You know? Okay. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful week.